Good day, everyone. This is Arifah Bashir of BSN Math 3A, and today I will be showing you how to solve number 33 on Prob Set A. Since our first lesson for this course is Polia's 4 steps in problem solving, I will be using this method in solving our chosen problem for today. And without further ado, let's get started. So here is our chosen problem. Mike said that when he opened his book, the product of the page numbers of the two facing pages was 7007. Without performing any calculations, prove that he was wrong. The first step in Polia's 4 steps in problem solving is to understand the problem. So let's say that this is Mike's book, and the pages containing the blue and the red circle are the two facing pages that is referred to in the problem. With this, let us denote x and x plus 1 as the page numbers of these two pages. For this step, in order to understand the problem, let's recap and make a list of what we know about the problem. First one on the list, we know that x and x plus 1 are whole numbers since they are page numbers. There are no negative page numbers nor fractions, so it's safe to say that x and x plus 1 are whole numbers. Second one on the list, the product of x and x plus 1 is equal to 7007 as per Mike's claim. Third one, again, since we are dealing with two facing pages on a book, these two numbers, x and x plus 1, are two consecutive numbers, which also means to say that one of them is even and the other one is odd. And last one on the list, in the problem, we were tasked to prove that Mike is wrong. We need to discredit Mike's claim that the product of the page numbers of the two facing pages is 7007. With this, let us proceed to the next step, which is to devise a plan. By the way, I will be showing you two approaches for this video, so stay tuned till the very end. Since what we are given is a product of two consecutive page numbers, we can start looking for a pattern in the products of two small consecutive numbers. Instead of listing out the products of two consecutive numbers until we reach 7007, or if we even reach 7007, we can start by taking a closer look at the products of two small consecutive numbers and see what they have in common. Doing this will help us identify if there are indeed two consecutive numbers that when multiplied will equal to 7007. Because remember, our task is to discredit Mike's claim, and since we've already devised a plan, which is to look at the products of two small consecutive numbers and see if there's a pattern, let's proceed to the next step. The third step is to carry out the plan. So I have here a total of 36 products of two consecutive numbers, from 1 to 10, 11 to 20, 81 to 90, and 100 to 109. Upon looking at the products, what do you notice? Is there a pattern? Feel free to pause this video if you'd like to find and look for the pattern before we proceed. See it yet? Here's a clue. Let's take a look at the products and their last digits, the digits in red. See the pattern now? If you've noticed, the product of two consecutive numbers will always be an even number, and the last digit of the products either ends in 0, 2, or 6. And this is consistent for all the products of two consecutive numbers. Again, the product of two consecutive numbers is always even, and it either ends in 0, 2, or 6. Remembering Mike's claim on the problem and knowing that this pattern is evident on all the products of two consecutive numbers, we can now conclude that Mike is wrong, as no product of two consecutive numbers will lead to 7007, as this is an odd number. Because remember that the product of two consecutive numbers will always be an even number, and the last digit of the product either ends in 0, 2, or 6. And the fourth and last step is looking back. So this is the generalized statement regarding our findings, and this is like our main takeaway for this problem. Upon taking a closer look at the products of two consecutive numbers, a pattern can be seen in the products and its last digit. And that is, the product of two consecutive numbers is always even and it either ends in 0, 2, or 6. So this is something that you can apply in the future problems that you'll encounter. Earlier in step 2, I told you that I will be showing you another way of how to solve this problem. So what if we were tasked to prove Mike wrong with the use of calculations? So I have here another approach, which is the use a variable approach. And here is our first general equation. Now where did this equation come from? Remember the variables that we've used in step 1. X and x plus 1 here are the page numbers of the two facing pages, and as per Mike's claim, the product of the two facing pages is 7007. Hence, the equation here is also equal to 7007 as x is multiplied by x plus 1. By doing a little bit of algebra, we'll arrive at the third equation, which is x squared plus x minus 7007 is equal to 0. Now we need to find the values of x. And in order to do that, we need to use the quadratic formula. And I know that you're already familiar with the quadratic formula, so I won't delve deeper into that. So let's just proceed with the answers that we'll get once we plug in the values we have here into the quadratic formula. The first x value that we'll get, or our x sub 1, is 83.21. And the second x value that we'll get is our x sub 2 is negative 84.21. Going back to step 1, we already know that x and x plus 1 should be whole numbers instead of a number being in decimal form, as we are dealing with the pages of a book. So just by simply looking at the x values that we have, we already know that Mike's claim is wrong. Now, we have here another problem. It's quite similar to the previous problem, but now we're dealing with alternating pages. Layla opened her favorite book, and the product of the page number on her left and its alternating page is 10,609. With the use of calculations, prove that Layla was wrong. Again, the first step is to understand the problem. So let's say that this is Layla's book. This is just the same book showing the two alternating pages. And the pages containing the blue and the red circle are the two alternating pages that is referred to in the problem. With this, let us denote x and x plus 2 as the page numbers of these two pages. And in order to understand the problem, let's make a list of what we know about the problem. First one on the list is that we know that x and x plus 2 are whole numbers. Next, the product of x and x plus 2 is equal to 10,609. Third one, x and x plus 2 are two alternating numbers, which also means to say that both of them could be even numbers or odd numbers. And last one on the list, we need to prove that Layla's claim is wrong. With this, let us proceed to the next step, which is to devise a plan. Since what we are given is a product of two alternating page numbers, we can start by forming an equation by using and assigning variables on the information we have from step 1 and solve for the values of x. Doing this will help us identify if there are indeed two alternating numbers that when multiplied will equal to 10,609. Because remember, our task is to discredit Layla's claim, and since we've already devised the plan, let's proceed to the next step. So the same process as the previous problem, and for this we've also used the quadratic formula. And upon plugging in the values, we have 102.0049 for our x sub 1 and negative 104.0048 as our x sub 2. Remembering Layla's claim on the problem, which was the product of the two alternating page numbers of her favorite book was 10,609, and knowing that the values of x that we've solved for were not whole numbers, we can now conclude that Layla's claim was wrong since the answers that we've got were in decimal form. Remember that the two alternating page numbers, or the x values in this case, should not be in decimal form, as again, we are dealing with page numbers of a book. For step 4, or looking back, here is our generalized statement. For problems such as this one, we can first create an equation depending on our given and solve for the values of x to see if it really exists. And for this specific problem, we used x squared plus 2x minus 10,609 is equal to 0 as we were dealing with two alternating page numbers and a product of 10,609 was given. So for your task, you would be answering the same problem. You would also be proving Layla wrong, but without performing any calculations. So how would you do it? I hope to hear your answers soon, and again, this is Arifah Bashir of BSED Math 3A. If you have any questions, feel free to comment on this video on MS Teams. I hope you've learned something new. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a good day.